Hi, it's Alison Mackenzie here, and today I thought I'd share a little bit about my journey of going from being a stockbroker to humanitarian, because it's a topic that I get asked about a lot when I'm being interviewed, because I guess that those two labels don't naturally fit together in terms of how would one person be both of those. And part of that actually is that I'm no longer the same person as I was quite a number of years ago now. But when I started off working, I was somebody that had never really had a massive dream or vision for what I wanted my life to look like, other than I wanted to move out of home and I wanted to have freedom and I wanted to go off and travel. And so I did what many people around me were doing at the time, which was to go and get myself a job in a bank. And from there I progressed and took another job and trained and became a stockbroker and was fully qualified in doing that by the age of 23. So at that point, I was living my life, thinking really quite honestly of not much more than myself and the life that I was having through the late 80s and into the early 90s. And then I got to the point where I thought, I just don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I need to actually go and explore what life is about. So I went off travelling and backpacking around the world for a few years, had a fantastic time and went off and got a degree as well, but ended up back in the investment world again for one reason or another. And it wasn't until 2003 that I actually had the opportunity to take redundancy, which was brilliant. And I was just so excited because I knew by this point that I no longer wanted to be in an industry where I just felt I didn't fit. I had a very different set of values to a lot of the people I was working beside. Not all, I've got some great friends today that I met, in that career that I had. But increasingly, I didn't share the views of those running the organisations. And the further up the organisation I would get, the bigger the gap was, the bigger the potential conflict in values was. So I set out by myself as a coach and therapist and started to build my business. And that turned into offering emotional wellbeing programs within organisations. And within a few years, I was running a successful training consultancy business. But one of the downsides, if you like, of that success was I was knackered, I was burning out. I had become a slave to a job which, yes, I loved, but I was working way too many hours, travelling a lot. It was very lucrative, but it wasn't why I had gone into business. I guess one of the reasons had been to see if I could actually earn as good a living as I did through the investment industry, through being self-employed. And I certainly got to the point where I exceeded the earnings that I'd had in the investment industry. However, it wasn't giving me the lifestyle that I was looking for, and there was still something missing inside my heart. And so I decided, I'd been off in India doing a contract out there, and that had been a real wake-up call. Came home and decided to walk away from a lucrative training contract and to take some time out. Now, I actually had a diary that was full for the next year or so, and it was a case of unwinding that gradually. And I started to just consider other things. And I remember my sister saying to me, "So what is it you want to do?" And I said, I really don't know. But what I do know that I want to do is to do something that's more meaningful. I'd always seen pictures, or I'd always felt heartbroken when I saw pictures or films of natural disasters or wars or other just horrendous events that happen around the world that we see on the news every day. And I felt helpless because I didn't feel that I had the skills where I could go off and help. Now, obviously, I was able to donate money and I would do that, and I still do that. However, there was a part of me that wanted to do more. And so that day, I set the intention to do something more meaningful with my life. And I knew that I wanted it to involve children because for whatever reason, despite really wanting, I would have loved to have had my own children. I haven't had my own children. So I knew I wanted to do something involving young people. I knew I wanted to do something involving travel, which I love. But I also wanted to do something that actually made me feel that I was useful, something that made use of my skills in some way. And the day after I set that intention, the very next day, I got in my inbox, an email came in and it had a short clip about a film about a woman called Dr. Laurie Layden, who's become a very good friend of mine. And she was doing some humanitarian work with genocide survivors in Rwanda. And as soon as I saw that film, I knew that that was a sign, that was a message to me to reach out. And the old me just seemed to give way to this courageous energy inside that enabled me to write that email and just send off that email that said, love what you're doing, would love to hear more. And in about 8 weeks later, there I was up the top of a mountain in Rwanda, delivering my first training session to genocide survivors. And you know, I thought at that point that it was going to be a one-off trip. I wanted to find a cause I wanted to support. I might, I thought I might do some fundraising or go out a couple of times. I never for 1 minute thought that I was going to go out, I think 9 or 10 times now, I've lost count. And we've had a Hollywood film made about the work that we did in Rwanda there, but in the way that we helped those genocide survivors overcome their trauma. We taught them heart-centered leadership skills and entrepreneurial skills so that they stood a better chance in life. And you know, if you think of the world that we live in right now, you know, those emotions, the emotions that a human being feels once they have seen their family being murdered in front of them, which none of us can imagine unless we've been through that, or any of the other atrocities that happen during a war. Those emotions could be the same emotions that drive people to either suicide or become terrorists, or certainly have their lives fall apart. But these young people that we work with really opened my heart and showed me the capacity we all have as human beings to heal, to recover, and to make the most of our lives. And that was me at the start of my journey as a humanitarian. And since then, it's, you know, that one trip has significantly changed my life in so many ways, as you can probably tell from a lot more of the videos that I'm sharing and the blogs and my books, etc. So I'd love to hear what you think, and if you've had any similar stories, please do share your comments and questions below this post, and I look forward to connecting with you. Bye bye.